Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio, second Tuesday, International Food, Wine, Travel Writer Association Food, Wine, and Travel Show. That's a mouthful. With your host, Nancy and Lisa. You know us, the crazy mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Parks tour, and also publishers of Big Blend magazines. Three of them cover food, wine, and travel. We've got Vacation Station, Travel and Leisure magazine, Parks and Travel magazine, and Eat, Drink, Be Merry magazine. And if you like to eat, drink, be merry, you're in for a good treat today because we're going to be talking about Steuben, New York, and it's all the Finger Lakes area, a beautiful region, Corning. You hear about glassware and glass art and trails and hikes. So very excited today. Every second Tuesday, we talk with different destinations that are part of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, and their website is IFWTWA.org. We call them IFWTWA. So today, we have two special guests joining us, Kevin Costello and Dave DeGolyer joining us from Explore Steuben, and the website is exploresteuben.com, and that's STEUBEN. So welcome, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Doing good. Dave, welcome. How are you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me. Doing awesome. Thank you for having me.
Hey, listen, I think that we need to play those guitars behind you.
They're not mine, so if you want me to play, it could be trouble.
Well, I heard that you write awesome poetry. So do you get inspired by the natural area?
I have written some poems about the area. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, cool.
I write a little bit about everything. So. Yep.
Oh, cool. And baseball, apparently. That's something that like sports too.
Basketball would be my first choice. Yeah.
That's it. Okay. And then Kevin, this is cool because you've been in the tourism industry, your whole life, and that's your career. So when you think about your region, it's kept you there for a while, right? Is it something that, is still exciting every single day as a destination for visitors?
Yeah, well, both Dave and I grew up in the area of the Finger Lakes. I grew up in Skaneateles, New York, which is one of the 11 Finger Lakes. Tough word. I've lived in almost every tough word town to say or spell.
Well, I'm going to leave all that to you.
I went to school for my undergrad at Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York, and got my travel degree. And then started traveling, worked in the hospitality industry and hotels all over the Southeast. And then went back and got my master's degree in tourism management from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, where I met my wife. So we're back. I'm what's called a halfback. I was in Virginia, so I moved from New York to Florida, and then moved to Virginia. So they called me a halfback there because I was halfway home, and now I'm a fullback. I came all the way back home.
So what is it that makes you feel good about being home in your area now?
Before we hopped on the call, we were talking about the four seasons. So I've lived in New York State and then in the South and then the deep South, like Florida, where there's only two seasons, hot season and not so hot season. But here we have four distinct seasons. And I really love that about New York State, in that, our fall is beautiful. Spring comes after winter. We have kind of a harsh winter, and then spring comes right now. And it's like my favorite part of the year because everything comes back to life. And then the summer is great because you can go out to the lakes and go swimming, jet ski, and go out on boats and all that. So, that's what brought me back to come back to the Finger Lakes is the region itself and the opportunity to promote Steuben County as a tourism professional. That's really what brought me back. Plus, we have a Wegmans grocery store, so that helps as well.
Okay. Well, okay, but listen, you had me at this adventure beverage trail. Like you have trails for breweries, wineries. This is, so to me, we could go explore parks and then hop on, have like a little in-betweener. You can hike a little bit and then sip a little bit. Isn't that right, Dave?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we actually promote. We call them adventure pairings, but we have such great landscape. We were talking earlier, we were blessed with a beautiful landscape that we take advantage of with some wonderful outdoor experiences, and then finish it off with some great craft beverages, some wine. The Craft Your Adventure Trail there are over 36 different craft beverage producers on the trail. And all of them are located near hiking trails or waterfalls, the lakes themselves, which, as Kevin said, become a playground in the summertime. And the nice thing is you don't have to have your own equipment. If you don't have a boat or a jet ski, you can rent jet skis, paddleboards, kayaks, all that stuff. So you can just show up with your adventure and go out on the lakes and explore. So It's a lot of
Nice.
fun. Yeah.
What kind of weather do you normally have in the summer season? I mean, how hot does it get?
It's not, one thing we don't get is the humidity really.
Mhm.
So, I would say summers
Sure.
generally range from, the low 80s, probably consistently. You might get into the mid 90s at times, but
Mm.
it doesn't usually, feel like it's 120.
Mhm.
So that, occasionally there's some humidity, but very seldom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like
most of the
perfect
homes
brewery
here-
weather.
Yeah.
Most of the homes here don't even have central air because it doesn't
Oh.
get
Wow.
so hot in the summertime.
Wow.
The need for air conditioning has not been prevalent. Everybody's
Oh,
got
wow.
a fireplace, but not air. central
Okay.
air.
That's wild. That's wild.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to live out in the desert. So when you're talking like 80, 90 degrees, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
where it's
spring.
it's spring.
Yeah.
Spring weather,
Pretty moderate,
same as
really.
Florida,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, same as
Mhm.
Florida. So, but
Wow.
it sounds like
Hmm.
perfect weather to be outside in the
Yeah, for
water,
sure.
Mhm.
and then,
Cool.
yeah, have a nice cold beverage afterwards. And you were talking about craft beverage. So do you have distilleries as well? Because I know
Yes.
Finger Lakes, we think of wine immediately,
Yeah.
right? So this goes beyond wine.
Yeah, I mean, wine's the big draw, I think. It has been for decades, actually over a century. But the craft beverage movement, especially in the past decade, as I said, there are over 36. It's four counties that are all connected. There's over three dozen. Most of those are craft breweries. There are, I think, 5 or 6 distilleries. There's the most awarded farm cidery in New York State is this little cidery. It's in Canisteo,
Cool.
but so you've got hard cider, spirits, moonshine and gin and vodka.
You said
and,
moonshine.
Woo.
moonshine, yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yeah, our lake is Keuka Lake, which is in the middle of. There are 11 Finger Lakes, so it's the in between 5 on each side. So the moonshine is called the Middle Finger Moonshine.
No,
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
is
perfect.
funny.
That's
Yeah.
That's
perfect.
cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you've also got, it seems like a lot of little towns. So is Corning
Mhm.
like the main destination, and that's where your offices are as well for people to pick up information?
Yeah, I mean, we are comprised mostly of small towns. Corning's a town of about 11,000, so it's still
Oh,
relatively
nice.
small.
Mm.
But it would be one of the main destinations in and of itself, in part because of the Corning Museum of Glass,
Mm.
which is a world-renowned museum. It's the largest museum in the world devoted to glass. So there you've got artifacts and historic pieces that go back 35 centuries. And right
Wow.
up to these incredible glass pieces from around the world that are, some of them are huge. And then they have live glass blowing demonstrations. So it's a pretty big draw. It's something spectacular that you wouldn't expect to find in a small town. So for that, and Corning is America's Crystal City. So it's been, all things glass since the late 1800s, with everything from making the Edison bulbs for Thomas Edison to fiber optics to, windows for the shuttle,
Wow.
and a lot of different things. Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
where
It is
did
a-
most of, go ahead.
Sorry, it is still a corporate town. So Corning
Yeah.
Incorporated still has their corporate headquarters here in Corning, New York, which has really helped our downtown district called the Gaffer District, which is a business improvement district. And for a small town in the southern tier of New York, we're very diverse in that Corning employs engineers from all over the world. So we have very diverse mix of restaurants on our Market Street, which you wouldn't find ordinarily in other smaller towns in the Finger Lakes.
Oh,
Mm.
wow. So,
Mhm.
you've got the glass art to me, which is, you go through your website
That's
and look at all the
amazing.
images and,
Mm.
I'm just like, okay, I want to go see that because there's just something absolutely magical about glass art.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it's dangerous. So I think
Yeah.
there is something about that. It's like you do want to stick your finger in it, but better.
No.
It's like this, it's like candy. It
Mm.
does look like candy. You do
Yeah.
want to eat it, but you can't eat it, but you want to.
Yeah.
So with that, did that bring in also an art scene to the region? Because it seems to me when nature is there, then, if you've got like a company that's, kind of back in the town, like Corning, that it looks like a hub for the arts to me.
Yeah,
Besides, you
absolutely.
have guitars.
Guitars. I can't take credit for those. Those belong to other people in the house. But when I sing, everybody leaves the room. Which is convenient sometimes, though. Art is a huge thing here, and we've got the Museum of Glass. There's also another world-class museum that nobody would expect to find here, and it's called the Rockwell Museum, and it's actually not related to Norman Rockwell, but to the name of the people who started the collection. And it's mostly, it gained fame for its collection of Western and Native American art, and has since become a Smithsonian affiliate museum focused on art about the story of America and various forms. So you've got Native American art, you've got art from all over the country, being expressed there, and it's just pretty spectacular. I've used that word twice, but both museums are something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have something that big.
Has led to artisans setting up shop here.
Yep.
There are several hands-on opportunities to make your own glass, whether that's at Corning Museum of Glass or 2 or 3 other smaller businesses that will show you how to make glass, participate in that. We have potters, artists all over Steuben and the southern tier. So it's, yes, definitely an arts community.
What about music? We do a ton of music interviews. That's why I went into the guitar mode, because mostly every time it's a guitarist, they start bringing out all their guitars. I'm like, this is cool. But it seems to me that New York State, especially, just in a way, of course, New York City is like the hub of theater and art, right? But it seems that the smaller communities draw in just, a bunch of musicians. And does that happen in your area too, where you've got a lot of like smaller music studios, recording studios, and I don't know, it just seems that New York State is itself. So I just wanted to see if that's happening too for you guys, any musicians.
Primarily, yeah, I wouldn't say that we have music where there are recording studios and all that going on in our area, but definitely with the wineries and the breweries out at the lake, a lot of them have musicians play on the weekends, during the week. So there's live music to be found and heard, throughout the region. You could stop in at any one of these breweries on any given weekend or weekday, and there's a musician in the corner playing, quality music. One of our wineries built a new pavilion. So Point of the Bluff winery built a pavilion, and it has a concert series with national acts now.
Nice.
So that's pretty exciting. Like Bruce Hornsby's coming this summer. So like national acts, and we're kind of expanding the music scene. It hasn't been as prevalent as the other types of arts, but definitely it's growing. And I think a lot of the credit goes to these breweries and wineries paying for live music and, hosting musicians.
Oh, that's awesome. They're important. And we all really miss live music. It's like, it's like, dude, bring it back.
Special events this summer are going to be off the charts. People are dying for live music and getting outside and seeing more people.
There's nothing better than a glass of wine and good music. I mean, come on. Or maybe a craft brew. That's good too.
Yeah.
I don't want to
and moonshine. The middle finger shine. That's just the best thing ever. I'll never forget that. I'm going
that's
just
really
for that.
Funny.
I'm crossing the state lines just for the middle finger moonshine. But you were talking about the outdoors, and that you can go boating, and one of the things we've seen as we travel is that mountain biking has become, it's almost becoming its own national sport. And we've actually gone hiking on some of the trails and looking at and filming other people do it.
Yes.
For some good reasons there, but it looks like your area has also really embraced mountain biking as a sport.
Yeah, mountain biking and gravel racing are both really kind of come along here in the last couple of years. So there's some diehards that have helped blaze trails through some of the parks and forests, and so Mossy Bank Park, there's an event in August every year called the Hills on Fire, and it's actually gotten quite recognized as a top mountain biking event in the area. And then, like I said, there's also gravel racing, which has become
What's
great.
that?
And the nice thing is,
Yeah.
so it's kind of
Yeah.
across, it's not mountain biking, but it's kind of, you go on trails sometimes, but you're also on the farm roads and the back roads and some of the roads. So you're not on a paved road where you'd be on a, a streamlined bicycle. They usually have tires that are a little more akin to the mountain biking. And it's, I don't know enough about it, but it's like a cross cycling, a blend of adventure on dirt roads and also, off paths. But it's an opportunity too to see the beautiful countryside. So it's kind of really a neat way to experience the area and, get outside and really have fun.
Yeah, in the Finger Lakes out towards the lakes, it's very rural farmland. And so there are a lot of these secondary roads that are not paved. They're primarily used in between farmers' fields. And so it's off-road biking, but not downhill mountain biking. So it's more like potholes and gravel roads, and it's pretty intense.
Pothole biking.
Yeah,
Pothole biking.
we know about pothole driving. But
Yeah, we know about that.
Right.
but it's fun, and that's the thing, to go off, off the beaten path and
Yeah.
to kind of get out in nature. I think we're all craving that. So it seems like you guys really have that, including waterfalls. Who doesn't want to hang out at a waterfall? That's like
Right.
magic. So you have a couple parks, it seems, with some good waterfall action. What's the one behind us? That's Stony
Brook
or
State Park.
Stony Brook.
Yep.
Okay.
Stony Brook State
beautiful.
Park. And there are 3 main waterfalls there and a half dozen other falls. And it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful place. You can, camp there. You can take, your family and do picnics. And I think it's about 1.5 to 2 miles if you want to do the full trail in and out, as well as there's some rim trails. But you get right up close. You see the folks behind you. They're right up close to the top of the waterfall there. I think Kevin is actually one of those people on the side hoofing it up there.
Right on.
So I was smart enough to stay at the bottom. No, just kidding. But
Kevin was playing Rocky.
Yeah, he was ambitious. The right near 30 minutes from Corning is Watkins Glen State Park, which is was named a number 3 state park in the country at one point by I think USA Today. So that has 19 different waterfalls, and the gorge is pretty rugged and dramatic and just beautiful. The one thing I will say, if you have an opportunity to come, the best time to go to the parks is during the week, because everybody likes to go on the weekend. So you tend to get a little busier when you go during the week. Like, the picture behind you shows there's only a few people in there. So you get more of that experience, like you're really the only one out there. But there's some beautiful waterfalls just on roadsides too. You don't even have to go to a park. You can just be driving and pull over and look at some breathtaking waterfalls.
Really? Oh man.
Yeah.
So
this whole
it sounds
area's
like
got them.
Yeah, it seems like it's a scenic road in. So where are most people driving? Because I know a lot of people are going to be doing road trips, even though we look at the way gas prices are, people will go, okay, we're going to go maybe for a 6-hour to 8-hour drive and then hang out in the place that we're in. So where do you expect your visitors to be really heading in from this year?
Yeah, so the last, due to COVID, most of our people coming last year and still probably this year are in state. So we're about an hour from Rochester, 2 hours from Buffalo, about 2.5, 3 hours to Albany, New York. So a lot of our drive market is New York. The border is opening back up in Canada, so we'll probably see some more international than we have in the past 2 years. We do get people coming up from the south through Pennsylvania. So we're about 3 hours from Philadelphia. So we see traffic from Philadelphia. The city, New York City's 4.5 hours from us. So, within a 5-hour drive, we have a huge population base that we service. So Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Erie, PA, that area, even Cleveland is a drive market for us.
Yeah. We were in Erie, PA, about a year, I don't know anymore, a year and a
Year
half.
and a half.
And we could see, we were out at a vineyard looking down, and you could see, the lake. You could see Canada actually on a good day. And they're like, Buffalo, New York is over there. And you could almost like see. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we want to go. And I had people like emailing, you need to come, you're right there. And I'm like, we're not allowed to cross over yet. We want to go. We want to go. It seems so close, but it's kind of neat when you think that, Erie has that amazing, wine tasting belt going, along the lake and into
Mm,
Buffalo. So like this you could just go on one big wine vacation in the
Yeah, you
whole
could.
region if you're that close to Buffalo. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Our viticulture region is a lot different though than the Niagara region for sure. They grow a lot of native varietals in Niagara viticulture region, and ours have been kind of hybrid now because Dr. Constantine Frank brought over vinifera and grapes and planted them rootstocks with traditional rootstocks and started growing Chardonnays and different varietals than what you might get in the Niagara region. Dave
that's
knows a lot
good though.
about that than I
That's
do.
good though. But that's
Mm.
really good to have something
yeah.
different for everybody traveling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, historically, in the 1820s, the native grapes were planted, so the first were actually planted in Hammondsport almost 200 years ago. And
Wow.
originally the wine region here was focused on those native grapes, which are a lot sweeter, tend to be a lot sweeter. And then, the hybrid grapes kind of came along, after Prohibition in the 50s and 60s, people wanted those flavors like they got back in Europe, those and hybrids offered that profile a little bit more. But then Dr. Frank was the first person to figure out how to grow vinifera grapes here, and he did that in the 1950s and revolutionized winemaking in the whole northeastern United States. So so now we've got it all. We've got the native grapes. You've got people focusing on that still. You've got people focusing on the hybrid grapes, which offer you some unique, like Vignoles and Leon Alette and some really interesting wines. And then you've got Riesling is the king here. Cab Franc's probably right behind it. And you've got some spectacular wines that they're being made here. Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
man.
Mm.
And when it comes to Prohibition, we're going right back to the
Yeah.
middle finger
Yeah.
moonshine.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's over with
Right.
now.
I think
Yeah.
that's really funny.
Yeah, no, I love that, but now if you're doing, the viticulture, you've got all the wineries, right? And of course the breweries and the craft, beverages. What about farming? Do you have farming going on? Because it sounds like you've got good soil. It sounds like you've got really clean, nice water, which always helps wine and craft brewing and distilling too.
Yep. Well, as Kevin mentioned,
go ahead. Well, the top industry in New York State is agriculture, definitely in Steuben County. The second top industry is tourism. So yeah, we have a lot of agriculture, a lot of dairy farms, cheese making. Potatoes are grown in Steuben County. They're mostly shipped into Pennsylvania for the potato chip industry in Pennsylvania. But yeah, we have some small farms, some large farms, add in the whole grape growing, and agriculture is number one in Steuben County for sure.
Wow. So you really have the wine and cheese going. That's perfect.
awesome. Perfect.
Locally made, so it's great. Yeah.
Now, what about shopping? Because if I don't bring up shopping, we found out that people really care about shopping, and our audience. It seems to be one of their top things. Is are there unique shopping destinations that you won't find on, the big online thing that I'm talking about?
Well, a nice thing is, the small towns of, especially like Hammondsport, for example, we used that earlier, but because that's where the wineries, are primarily located. But there's a small town of about 700 people, the normal population, and they've really adhered to maintaining that traditional small town Americana charm. So they don't have the box stores, they don't have all those, big franchise shops. They've got little boutiques, they've got antique shops. On the country roads, you'll find antique shops, pottery shops. So, and then in Corning, there are about 100 different shops and boutiques and galleries and studios just in downtown Corning. So you can, go to the Museum of Glass and leave your car and take the shuttle over onto to Market Street, which is the main hub, and walk around and spend the day shopping and eating. And there's a great new craft brewery right on Market Street too. So have some craft beverages and make a day of it, or two. There's certainly a lot to do. There's hiking trails 5 minutes from downtown, so you can get a nice assortment of stuff for sure.
Nice.
But there's a lot of great shopping.
Yeah, and Dave, I can't believe you're forgetting the gift shop at the Corning Museum of Glass, which
I was leaving that for you.
if you get trapped in there with somebody that wants to go shopping, you could be there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
They
You've got
still
stuff to look
have,
at, though.
like the Pyrex. Corning used to make Corel and Pyrex, and those
Oh,
brands
I didn't know that.
are still
Okay.
available to be purchased at Corning Museum of Glass. So that's there. But to add into agriculture in the mix in terms of shopping, like any country road you go down in this region, you'll find a roadside stand with sweet corn, on the honor system. So there's a little box that
Oh,
says,
wow.
put the money in here and take a farmer's dozen, right? So, that's kind of cool. There are still we have Amish and Mennonite community. And so there are farm stores that they have that have unique produce and products in there. Shopping for sure, primarily in our Gaffer district, which is a business improvement district in Corning, is where most people shop. But there's a lot of eclectic, interesting things you find out in the countryside for sure.
Why do I think pie? As soon as you started talking about the Amish and Mennonites and the farm stalls, I always think there's apple pie somewhere.
Well, grape pie is king around here.
Grape pie, really?
Yeah.
I've never had grape pie before. Well, now we have to go.
Come for grape pie and middle finger moonshine. There's nothing.
Maybe not together though.
I don't know. I'll go for it. I'll try.
That sounds a strange combination.
I know.
Probably
Those
good
stairs
though.
are calling me already. They're like, you're going to do all that, those
Great pie.
stairs, and you can just, enjoy the waterfall, but you're going to have to do those stairs. But, and that brings something, you've got all this agricultural wine and, farm to table food's got to be going on in your area too. A lot of good restaurants that way. Fresh from the farm.
Yeah, we have an assortment. Some of them get, they get their ingredients from local producers. Some of it's meat, produce, that sort of thing. And then we have a few that actually grow their own. So Kevin mentioned the place that has the concerts, Point of the Bluff Vineyards, but they also have an inn called the Park Inn, and they have their own farm and they source it all. All their ingredients there, all their main vegetables and produce and stuff like that. They work with local cheese producers and meat producers, and so you can get a variety of levels, I guess, of farm to table. But
Nice.
That one thing people, we've become more acclaimed over the last several years for the wine, with reason. And the craft beverages are big here, but people are often surprised by how great the food is, because it's not something that's publicized quite as much. You're focusing on the wine and stuff. For some people, food's an afterthought, but for a lot of people here, it's the main thing, so there's really a lot of great chefs, a lot of creative culinary people doing some really fun and tasteful things. So
it looks like a lot of sweetness too, because I was looking that you have a trip planner app, which I think is really cool for people to use, especially when you're navigating small towns and in an area you don't know. It's like there's something about these apps that becomes like a treasure hunt in a way. More, it's just they're fun. But it seems like you have a thing about ice cream parlors.
Yeah.
This is one of the first things I noticed, other than the beverages and parks. Ice cream.
That's a big summer thing. Almost every small town around here has a little ice cream stand. Some make their own ice cream. Some are using like regional ice creams. But almost every little small town has an ice cream stand. So we had a little competition, a viral competition, to see, who had the best ice cream stands, and then created a trail off of that so everybody could go and check it out.
Nice.
So now I got to ask each of you, because we're on our food, wine, travel show. So we people come knocking on the door now because, hey, we can all travel again and we can see friends and family. And so now someone's going to, friends or family are going to just suddenly surprise you and knock on your door for the weekend. So I want to know, where are you going to take them? So let's look like, we're in the middle of spring. So going in towards summer, it could be, so let's see, let's start with you, Kevin. Where are you going to take them for the day or the weekend, whatever you want to do? Because some people you just want to say, go get a hotel over there, depending on
depends on who it is.
Yeah, and we need to talk about lodging too, by the way. That's actually important too.
Sure. I think one of my favorite experiences was what I've kind of talked about throughout this call is getting out on the country roads and going out towards the lakes and driving around and just finding what you can find. Like, I know how to find them. So I wouldn't let my family know that I knew where we were going. I would just drive us around a little bit and they'd be surprised, like, oh, look, there's a brewery there. Let's stop there. And I already knew we were heading there. So, and then after that, finding the trailhead and going for a little hike, and then ending up at one of the smaller restaurants in one of the small towns, and then stopping at a roadside stand and picking up some produce to bring home at the end of the day.
Sounds like fun to me.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the nice thing. Growing up around here, you kind of take it for granted sometimes. The charm of the small town isn't just the how quaint it looks. It's also the people and the experiences you get kind of hanging out in those places. So like some of those, you take a drive up by the lake and you go to one of the craft breweries or a winery or something, and there's just this chill experience. There's just this laid back, unpretentious vibe that you get that is just a lot of fun. So I would definitely, go for a drive, because it's part of the fun is just seeing how beautiful it is here. And you're going to pass some of those waterfalls and some of the different things, pulling over at one of those, old barns. It's an antique shop and kind of checking out what they have.
Nice.
And, usually hearing some stories and some suggestions about where you should go while you're here. And people just genuinely are passionate about the place. So if you go to, one winery, they're probably going to tell you, well, you got to go to this place and try their Cab Franc, or, got to try the Gruner Veltliner over at Weiss, or whatever, because they're going to genuinely tell you something that they think you're going to love. They want to share it with you. So that, going to those places would be for sure where I would take people. And then probably a surprise place, if I'm going to call anyone out, would be like, there's this aviation museum called the Curtiss Museum, which most people have never heard of Glenn Curtiss. They've heard of the Wright brothers, rightly so, but Glenn Curtiss was probably as pivotal, if not even more so at one point in time in aviation history, but nobody's ever heard of him. So if you can go to this museum and see these vintage aircraft, vintage motorcycles. So if you love cars, motorcycles, airplanes, forms of travel, that museum's all about it, and it's on a back road, out in the country, and but it's also right near good restaurants and wine and all that. So you go and you can have fun. And that's probably what I would do.
You did say rightly so about the Wright brothers. You know that.
I know. I try to get a pun in every time, every once in a while.
And I was like, okay, I won't interrupt that. That was just perfect. Yes, I thought that was great. And that does sound interesting. I actually have heard of him. I don't know, because we do a lot of history stuff, so it does, those things filter through. But when you can get that tangible, there's nothing like actually going to see what people have created also in the past. When you look at these giant Boeings in the sky and then you think about how it all started, it's pretty darn amazing, to see that.
Yeah.
And I think they made things really well back then, especially cars. There's something really cool and classic,
Well, when you look at the planes, I mean, they were sitting on the outside, so you think about the plane and the luxury we have today and how kind of, confined, secure we are. And, back then those people they didn't get training, they trained themselves while they were doing it. So, they're pretty daredevil is, I guess, a fair word to use, because they're pretty, brave for sure.
Exactly. Kevin, you were going to say something there?
Yeah, we also have a boating museum in Hammondsport as well. So a lot of the early wooden boats were built right here in the Finger Lakes. So there were specific boats whether they were sailboats or motorboats that were named after some of the lakes or created on the lakes. And so those boating manufacturing businesses are no longer around, but there's still a lot of those antique boats that are still in use on the lake. And then this boating museum, the boating museum also has a group of people who restore boats. So it's a pretty cool place to check out. It's along the same lines as the Glenn Curtis Museum, where you're seeing all of these kind of antique transportation things. This one's devoted solely to, the power boats and the sailboats that are still on the lake, but used to be on the lake more so back in the 50s and the 40s.
How
Cool
neat.
place.
You've got to have, oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
was going to
Nancy.
say, I think we heard about the Curtis in Yuma, Arizona. We were at the place where the first airplane touched down, and there was a lot of photos. And I recall that name. I think there's something there about him.
Yeah.
Probably he was pretty integral in aviation, the advancement of aviation, especially from 1908 until the World War One. We worked with Alexander Graham Bell and quite a few people back
Yeah,
then.
you know what's so interesting about your area is that so much happened, especially, with industry. When we were in Erie, Pennsylvania, we're in a museum, and here's all this cast iron, and you've got the Industrial Revolution that really happened right there. And, living in the West for so long, we didn't realize, everything came from back there. Everything, because of the railroads, came through from there, and you wouldn't have waffle irons if it wasn't for back east, and everything that was going on. I know, but that's important. Everybody must have waffles. I do want to touch on lodging, but just going back to the nature part. With all this water, you have got to have like beaver and some beautiful bird life and nature and deer. And do you have eagles, like bald eagles and things like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Ooh.
actually, I kind of ironic, but last summer one flew right down the Market Street in Corning.
Wow.
Because it's the river's 300 yards on the other side of the building. So there are bald eagles, heron, great blue heron. You'll see a lot of those, and a lot of waterfowl. There's an enormous amount of bird life, wildlife, deer, fox, beaver, like you said, porcupine, black bear. Yeah.
They're all in my backyard.
Sometimes they go
right now. They're coming out of hibernation now. So we have to lock up our garbage cans.
Porcupine. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen one for years. I think the last time we saw him was when we were in South Africa. Yeah. I mean, that's that's amazing.
And then the lakes are filled with trout and all sorts of different fish species. Yeah, it's a big fishing destination.
Man, it seems like you'd have everything. Okay, so lodging. What about camping? Can we go camping with the porcupines?
Cool.
You might not want to, but you can.
Maybe not. But, okay.
There's
camping.
there are a variety of camping options, from renting lodges and cabins to actually, primitive camping with tents, RVs. So yes, there's several different camping options. We mentioned earlier, bed and breakfasts are big because especially with the small towns, there's a lot of bed and breakfasts that have been around for a while. And then we have traditional hotels, inns, that sort of thing. So there's quite a variety depending upon what you're looking for. You're going to be able to find it. And the nice thing too, we didn't talk about, but it's an affordable area. So it's accessible and affordable, which makes it, it's a nice fit for individuals, families, and friends who are traveling. It's a good option, especially with everything else costing what they do these days.
Yeah, I know. To me, it just sounds like a place you just want to get to and
hang out.
Just explore. Like, I love that your website is Explore Steuben, because it just feels like you want to just go out and kind of like, use the app, because that's it's cool, but you could just also just start wandering around and go, oh, what's this? And talk to the locals, and seem super friendly. But definitely we have to go, Nancy. We have to.
I'm down.
Well, we will. We get
Road trip.
everywhere. Some, it always happens. it
Mhm.
sometimes takes us a while, and then we end up circling everywhere. So we do go in circles, but it sounds like you
Yes.
have good circles to go through. So
Well, that life is a circle, so just keep
That-
going in that circle. You'll get to where you want to go to.
I know, and we are still catching our own tails.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah.
So I want to thank you both for joining Nancy and I here on Big Blend Radio. Everyone,
pleasure.
again, every second Tuesday with IFWTWA, the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, we get to chat with all these destinations, all these wonderful people, and learn about these amazing places across the country and
Mhm.
around the world. So definitely Steuben County sounds like we all want to go. We want to go play
Mhm.
with glass, and we want to play with cheese and wine and moonshine and
And
waterfalls, you
waterfalls.
know.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, this just everything is there. So exploresteuben.com is the website. And again, it's STEUBEN. I just like to prove I can spell. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Lisa, thanks,
Pleasure.
Nancy.